Not a lot, really, to be honest. It's a different label given by different backgrounds of people. So lots of people in HR use the phrase organisational design. It comes from a human resources perspective in terms of what the teams do and how they interact and stuff like that. But it is part of business architecture. They just don't realise that it is, not that it matters, to be quite frank. Business architecture tends to come from people with more of a large company IT background, maybe. So really, there's not an awful lot of difference, really. All I would say is that it's definitely not an org chart. Yeah, most people create a target operating model, Tom, because they want to convert their fairly concise strategy document into something to inform the people that have actually got to do the transformation of what they need to build. So it's an intermediate fleshing out, taking the strategy and turning it into meaningful things that need to be done. A target operating model, sometimes known as TOM, is a means of depicting what the future state will look like at a point in time that is defined. So you might have a target operating model for 5 years hence or 12 years hence or whatever your sector demands. It's a means of depicting what the future might look. You're modelling, you're creating a view, an impression of what the future will look like, having had a different strategy put in place in your firm. Well, that's an interesting question. A lot of people will die in a ditch over choosing what they think is the best methodology. I would argue that the best methodology is the one that the people using in the organisation like and feel comfortable with. So I think there's many, many different ways of getting to the end here, and you choose the right tools to do the right jobs for the right people and right organisations. So I don't prescribe a particular methodology. According to some organisations and clubs and associations, yes, they are. However, I disagree. Capability modelling, nothing wrong with it. It's an excellent technique if your stakeholders like it and feel comfortable with it and it makes sense to them. But you can achieve a perfectly good TOM without using it at all. It's a good idea to use it if you can, but you don't have to, because there's other ways of getting to the end. In fact, the outcomes, good communication, depicting the future in a sensible way that people understand it is what you're looking for, not how you get there. Business architecture is the discipline of how the various components in the firm fit together to deliver the value that is provided to clients, customers, and external stakeholders. Well, I won't give you a politician's answer here. I'll say yes. Canvases are dare I say, a fancy word for a template, and they've become very popular in recent times. Business model canvas, the Alex Osterwalder 2010 piece of work. Excellent innovation, fantastic, really. Had such massive impact on this type of work in recent years. Excellent. Yeah, they're very, very, very useful indeed. But be careful with them though, because they can just simply be just filling in dots and things and not really thinking about how they work. So you've got to be careful. They've got to be used in a professional and competent way. Yeah, they're very good, very good. And there's many of them as well. Yeah, CCPPOLDAT, fantastic technique. Terrible acronym. The POLDAT bit at the back, POLDAT, comes from the Crystal methodology, which was put together by a consultancy called the Computer Science Corporation about 25, 30 years ago. Developed by others, by putting other letters on the front of it. We have customer, which is the description of the customer experience. Channel, the description of how the revenue is brought into the model. Product and proposition, which is the first P. What are your products looking like? What are you offering to the outside world? Process, organisation, location, so CPOLDAT. The whole purpose of it really is to provide what we call cross architecture views that are not functional. That it's not a finance view, it's not a procurement view, it's not an organisational, operational view. It's a cross-functional view. Okay, so it takes away the problems where people look at it and start thinking, what does that mean to me exactly? And it helps the business work together to create this future. So that CCPPOLDAT is good. Andrew Campbell's Polism is another version of a cross-functional view. Lacks the marketing front end, where CCPPOLDAT tends to cover the whole piece quite nicely. And you can use CCPPOLDAT to describe the current state, do gap analyses, and describe the future state. And people get used to it as a technique. Don't have to train it, just use it, because it becomes quite intuitive really at the end of the day. It works very well, very well. Not well known, not well written about, to be honest, but certainly I've used it in many occasions over many years in many organisations. It works really well. Certification has become a big thing, particularly in the IT world. Certification, so you get a piece of paper to say that you're qualified as a XYZ, whatever, have become very, very popular, particularly in the IT world. So, become my certified and all this type of stuff. So it really involves on going on a course, learning a load of facts, and then being able to pass a multiple choice test at the end of the week, really, and collect a piece of paper. Okay, fine. Yeah, but it's they tend to be very single methodology driven. So they tend to teach you methodology, and then you pass a test at the end of the week to show them that you've actually taken something on board. But most certificate-based courses are probably quite low level in terms of the national qualification framework, in that they're just about fact regurgitation, really. There's very little analysis and criticism or self-criticism of various tools and techniques. Everything is usually presented as the best way to do something. That's why you do the certificate. Whereas our courses look at all different types of techniques and critically evaluate the benefits, downsides of some of these things, as well as the upsides. And that is quite rare, actually. Our courses they're evaluative. We present lots of different tools and techniques. We explain the good things about them. We talk about some of the things we don't like about them. We compare and contrast. So I would say that the Sixsess training courses are at least level 6 on the National Qualification Framework, whereas most certification courses probably not much more than level 2. The first one was with a company called Scandia, which is now then part of Old Mutual. I think it's now called Quilter, big life and pensions. That's how it all started, really. Barclaycard was another one. Bank of Australia, which is probably more well known as Clydesdale Bank up in Glasgow. Friends Life, DVLA down in Swansea. I did some work with Bupa. Mainly large financial service organisations. I also trained an awful lot of contractors actually over the years. There's a lot of interest in it from independent consultancies. I've also delivered these courses to consultancy companies, where I trained a whole cohort of management consultants on how to do target operating models for their clients. So mainly large organisations, mainly financial services, a few public sector people, major transportation providers, outsourcing companies that do government material. Andrew Campbell looked at the business model canvas, which was produced by Alex Osterwald in 2010, this lovely book, which is very colourful and lots of diagrams in it. And Andrew has been delivering an operating model course for a number of years, and he wrote the book. It's supplementary to his particular activity. He looked at the left-hand side of the canvas, which from memory is key resources and key activities and key partners, and decided that those 3 sections actually didn't really give enough detail. So he blew those up really effectively, took those 3 elements out, threw them away, and then dropped his own Polism acronym in there. So POLIS. elements and drop those in. So they're cross-functional views. He focused on value chains quite a lot, working out how the value gets through the organisation to the end user, and then what key management systems that are required, the information systems that are required, the organisational structures, the location, etc. into that, and the suppliers as well. Yeah, it's good because it expands that and asks a lot more questions. This business model canvas is good for a quick summary of the business model. And the fact that it hasn't got all that detail in it is good in its own sense because it doesn't make it too complicated. So this is an expansion really. So you do this in model canvas first, and then your op model canvas to explode that area and populate it with more meaningful things. Also based on value chain streams, or whatever you want to call them, going through the middle there. How's the value? If you use Andrew Campbell's canvas on its own, it has some issues because it doesn't deal with the why so much. It doesn't tell you what the customer propositions are, what the channels are, and what the value is really. It just traces the value through the back end. So in my personal view, you have to use both of them really to be able to communicate why you're creating this operating model really for the future. So you use both of them. Whereas CCPPOLDAT, which is another set of acronyms, that's customer, channel, product, proposition, process, organisation, location, data, application, technology. Dreadful acronym really, but that isn't comprehensive. It takes those 9 factors and presents the whole piece really in one way rather than having to use two particular canvases. So in summary, great piece of work, interesting book. It's got lots of ideas and concepts in there and some examples. Highly recommended. It's got some good things about it and a few little weaknesses as well, but then so's everything really, hasn't it? I'll answer all of these questions like this really. It's horses for courses. So I don't think one of them is better than the other. I think they fit different sets of stakeholders. I've got life strategy mapping. I thought it's quite old, and a lot of people sort of don't like things that are a little bit old. But strategy mapping is taking the balanced scorecard, looking at different objectives, creating all the links between them. It's a good way of thinking through a strategy and what that strategy means. Value chain analysis is good because it does focus on value, focuses on things that are important to deliver you value. Both techniques quite complementary, bit of overlap with them really. Again, it's looking at the same thing from a different angle really and presenting it in a different view. So neither is better than the other. They're all useful things, and there's many others as well.